The data and statistics of diversity in Pennsylvania are important for giving us information as teachers as to how to guide the instruction in our classrooms. As you can see in Pennsylvania schools, that we have over 46,700 English language learners in our classrooms. And this is a 114.5% increase in the last 5 years. Our statistics are increasing leaps and bounds every day. And so going into this profession, you should know that there will be several children in most classrooms that have limited English proficiency or may even be non-English speakers completely. My daughter, that is a fourth grader, has one little boy in her class who does not speak any English. Her teacher does speak Spanish and supplements conversation with him in his native language. And there are also 4 or 5 students in her classroom that are English speakers but also speak Spanish natively that help him. So you can see it is going to be something you will encounter in the classroom without a doubt. The top 5 languages spoken by English language learners in Pennsylvania are Spanish, Pennsylvania Dutch, German, Vietnamese, and Chinese. Although we see, especially in the Harrisburg, Carlisle, Mechanicsburg area, that there is a Bosnian population that is very large, that's native to our area, and a couple other very small pockets of diverse languages. When we look at graph 1, we can see that English language learners are getting support, but they're not getting support in their primary language. What this graph shows that back in the 90s, if you were an English language learner, you were still learning in your American classroom, but in your native language. As you see the numbers to our current years, this has dropped significantly. And instead, English language learners are getting instruction in English with a pull-out or push-in program by an English language learner teacher. The difference is that we have such big populations now, and we also have a huge variety of languages spoken by students that we cannot support this kind of learning in native language for our English language learning students. This is actually a negative because students learn best in their primary language. When we look at data in Pennsylvania on the Keystone exams and the PSSA, we see that schools with the highest concentration of special education students had a 64% decrease in their reading scores and 72% decrease in their math scores. So switching from English language learners to looking at diversity in the way of special education and special needs learners, these students are not scoring well on reading and math assessments. There are many factors that we'll talk about when we get to our week of assessment, but this is a problem. Okay, this is a big problem. When we look at schools in Pennsylvania that have English language learners, we can see their scores dropped roughly in the last couple years 70% in both reading and math. So we're not meeting the needs as well of those learners in classrooms. Again, we will talk about the data and the data collection. There are some issues with the validity of these accounts and the testing methods for both our special education students and our English language learners. This last statistic is a little different though. When we look at the cultural diversity in Pennsylvania, we have a large population of Black and Latino students. And these students suffered a 56% decrease in their reading scores and more than 60% decrease in their math scores in 1 year change. This is a problem, I think, more than the top 2 pieces of data because these students are receiving a better playing field for their test taking because when we take the Keystone and PSSA exams, they're taken in English without accommodations. that affects the validity of our top two resources here. But our Black and Latino students are taking this exam and they are able to speak the language of the test, and we see that teachers are maybe not reaching this population and teaching in a way that they're drawing them in and making sure that they're learning. So we will talk about how to reach that population um, over the course of the semester and in our strategies produced today in the course. The last thing we see here is a graph about special education disabilities. And we see in Pennsylvania, we have 42% of our students in special education have a specific type of learning disability. It's obviously not specified on this graph, but they've been diagnosed with a specific learning disability, such as dyslexia or a processing disorder, something specific. 25% of the students in special education have a speech or language impairment. That means they're getting help if they're going to a speech teacher in how they process or speak. 9% of our population is autistic, and if you've looked around or listened to anything on the media, you've seen that this is something that is rapidly increasing for our populations, not only in Pennsylvania, but in the United States as well. And the last part of the pie is 24%, and these are any other kind of disabilities. This also includes our gifted population. They are categorized as special education students because they have IEPs. You should have learned this in either Education 180 or 110, but they make up a part of the population as well. So what does this all mean for you as a classroom teacher? You're going to be responsible for teaching special education students, English language learners, gifted students, students with learning disabilities. What will you do to meet their needs? As we work through this presentation this week, you will see different instructional strategies for each of the areas: linguistic diversity, cultural diversity, and academic diversity. And those will pinpoint how you're going to help each of those students in your classroom. It's a big job, but it's definitely doable, and it's definitely the most rewarding part of this job. So let's see how we do it.